I am Teresa Hildebrand, and I am a 6th generation Chicagoan. I am also the Patron Services Manager here at the Orland Park Library. I have been with the library for almost 4 years now. I have worked in libraries since October of 1989. So I've got about 32 years of being in libraries. I've been researching my own family history for over 3 decades. For me, genealogy is truly my happy place. As you can see, there I am with my grandmother, about 6 years old, had to be in the middle of everything. Some may say it's a natural curiosity. When I was a kid, I heard a lot of busybody and MYOB. My family has actually been in Chicago for 155 years. And it just makes me really proud to know that our history goes back that far. Our first ancestor arrived in 1866. Over the next 40 years, we had the Betkeys come, we had Bridget Hurst, we had the McGinnises, we had the Ladens, we had the Howes. They worked in the Chicago Union stockyards. They drove streetcars that were actually drawn by horses back in the day. My German ancestors were tailors. There were truck drivers, there were railwaymen, and of course, being Irish, there were cops and there were firemen. I began working on my family history to find out more about these people who shaped my own life. When I started out in the mid-90s, it was quite the challenge. I was writing letters, sending in self-addressed stamped envelopes, and waiting months for documents to arrive. At the time, the state of Illinois only allowed 1 request per person at a time. And we have Diane coming with the camera, so I'm going to let her do that while I continue to talk. So I would wait months for these documents to come in, and I started using family members' addresses. So my sisters would call me up and say, you know, why do I have this death certificate? So I tried to do a little workaround. Check to see if the camera is going to come up. We'll give it a second. Thank you again for your patience, and thank you, Diane. You're awesome. I don't get it to work. That's okay. We're screen sharing. One of the funniest experiences that I had with these documents coming in, I had gone to visit my mom, and I was going to show her this death certificate that I had finally gotten in, and I'd waited months for it. And when I showed it to her, she said, "Oh, that looks just like my copy." And she went off in the other room and brought out her copy of this document that I had just waited months for. So little frustrations like that along the way. Also doing genealogy back in the day meant doing a lot of walking of the cemeteries to find grave locations. I would bring my kids with me, and at the time they were preschoolers. Okay, Diane is still checking our camera. So I would bring my preschool kids with me to the cemeteries. We'd go and we get the grave locations from the cemetery office, and then I would write the names down on index cards and hand the cards to the kids and say, okay, this is who we're looking for. So you know you're a genealogist when your children learn their ABCs off of grave markers. So yeah, that's kind of how I got my start. And now the beautiful thing about genealogy is you don't need to write letters. You don't need to look up, you know, the Illinois registries to find this or that, or sit in the libraries and pull out these dusty documents. You can do it from home. It's a game changer. So any place is a good place to start. Whether you have tons of information, maybe you've just been handed a box of all these random documents or photos, or if you have a couple of names jotted down on a piece of paper, wherever you're at, you're good to go. You might want to think about how to organize. You can do an old school organization. If you've got binders, pen and paper, however you want to do it. There's different documents that you can get offline, family group sheets, which is exactly what it sounds like, where you're recording information about different family groups. There's tree maker software that you can purchase if you're really not tech savvy. I have even more IT coming in. So the family tree maker software, if you're not tech savvy, that's probably not the route that you need to go in. I'm a bit distracted because I have Diane and I have Mark. And they're looking at the camera to see if they can get it going. So hopefully you can still hear me. And you see that I just, Mark's trying to duck down.
It's not going away.
No. Okay, well, I'm going to keep talking because you guys probably can't see what they're trying to do and you're wondering why I'm stopping talking. That's okay. All right, so tree maker software, I do have, that's okay, guys. I have tree maker software, which I used and I entered a lot of my family members and then I just stopped using it. There are options for you to do family trees online. You can do it for free on FamilySearch.org. You can also, if you have a paid Ancestry subscription, you can upload your family tree there. Guys, just yeah, that's okay. All right, thanks. Okay, we are just going to go without the camera, and I think I'm okay with that, even though I am having a good hair day. I hope you guys are laughing at my jokes. So again, you can go old school, get notebooks and pens and highlighters and organize however you need to organize, or you can go with tree maker software. I personally found it very confusing, and I consider myself fairly tech savvy, except for when it comes to Zoom presentations and hooking everything up. So yes, I wouldn't worry too much about that. Hopefully you connect with a family member who says, oh my gosh, I have it all on this software. Sharing your family trees online, you want to think about whether you want to do a public family tree. The benefit there is that if other people are looking for the same family members, they're going to be able to reach out to you, contact you. I currently have an Ancestry.com subscription. That is something that I kind of put aside in my own budget because Genealogy is my happy place. So it's kind of like my guilty pleasure. So what's nice is if someone comes across someone in my family tree and they think that we're related, they can go ahead and send me a message. They do not have access to my personal email, phone numbers, none of that. They send me a message, I can contact back with them. That's really been awesome. I've connected with distant cousins through that numerous times. DNA testing, I'm not really going to talk too much about DNA testing because I haven't fully looked into it. So I don't feel like I can really give an opinion on it. I myself haven't done DNA testing. So again, you want to think about what you're willing to share. The majority of the family trees that are online, if you're entering information and that person is still living, then that is usually something that would be shadowed. It wouldn't give a name. It would just say male or female living. And here we have the picture here. My great-great-grandma, Augusta Weinsheimer. So she was actually 4 years old when she came here in 1866. And she is pictured with the shorter little girl, that's Liberty, who was best friends with my grandma, who's the taller girl on the right. So my grandma was raised by a grandma, so you know that she was a pretty darn good grandma. So what to expect this evening? What you can expect is that we got started a little bit later, which is fine. So I'm going to be covering Orland Park Library sources, databases that we're going to use, Ancestry.com, the library edition. When we hit the pandemic back in March of 2020, Ancestry.com did a wonderful thing. They realized that libraries were closing, that people were at home, and they allowed our patrons, our library card holders, to access the Ancestry.com library edition from their homes, which is something that they had not done before. So this has really been great. And they have extended this through the end of the year. So through the end of the year, you're going to be able to go into Ancestry.com from home. I'm also going to drop into our newspaper archives. That was posted on our social media about a week and a half ago. And I was like, ooh, I've never really looked at newspaper archives. And I went in and I started looking around and I was finding all kinds of information and I was getting very excited. So that's also going to be one that hopefully will be good for you guys. Free online sources, FamilySearch.org. That's actually run by the Church of Jesus Christ for Latter-day Saints. I do have some cousins living out in California who are members of the LDS Church, so that's kind of neat. I'm also going to be throwing in my timely tips. We're going to do some live database searches, and here we have a picture that was sent to me by my great aunt's daughter. So I think she would be a second cousin. And when she sent me this picture, this was the first time that I saw this picture. This was also, if you take a look at August, you can see that he has clubbed feet. And this is something that we never knew before until we saw this picture. So that was kind of cool, like, oh, wow. All right. So prepare to be frustrated. This is a long-term hobby. There will be frustrations, but the payoffs are really, really sweet. You're going to see a lot of misspelled names. When indexers go in and they try and read the handwriting, they do the best that they can. I haven't done it in a bit, but I'm actually a volunteer indexer for FamilySearch.org, which you can always go on their website and take a look, check that out, see if it's something you want to do. Indexers do the best they can. Sometimes when you're searching, you'll see a name spelled two different ways. So you got to kind of be flexible. You may see dates that are decades off. My great grandma Howe was famous for constantly changing her year of birth on every legal document. From one census to the next census, which is 10 years apart, she'd age maybe 6 years, 7 years. Kids' birth certificates, she just kept getting younger and younger. She also, through her life, went through about 4 different variations of her first name. So it was really interesting trying to keep track of her over the years. Many a times I have searched for a record and I finally found it, and then you pull it up and sometimes you'll have a completely black screen, or you'll have a message from Ancestry saying, "We're sorry, this document is no longer available." But the payoffs, like I said, the payoffs are absolutely fabulous. I've sent out messages that sat dormant, and then all of a sudden I get a response. "Oh my gosh, this is my old email address. I can't believe that I missed your message." I have connected with my great grandmother's older sister's descendants. So the Sabinski girls, there were 4 of them. My grandma was the youngest, and I came across the oldest sister's descendants. And when Jan and I got together, she gave me generations of information. I gave her generations of information. We also found out through talking that there was a cousin who lived in the area. So I met up with my 4th cousin and his wife and their son, and we went and spent the day at Brookfield Zoo with these complete strangers that turned out to be relatives. Just amazing connecting with people. Okay, so let's see. Getting ready to search. What do you already know? And these lovely people, 1959, they've only been dating for a little bit. This is my mom and dad. This is one of my favorite pictures. So when you're getting ready to search, what do you know already? If you're lucky and maybe you already have a birth certificate, so from there you may have an address. Fast forward to the next census, you have a place to look in your census records. If you have a death record, then you may have the parents' names from that. You may have a maiden name that you didn't previously have. So genealogy is kind of like an escape room. You want to find your next clue because that clue is going to lead you to the next clue. So this is definitely something where it's not a short experience. You definitely are going to put some time in. If you come across records of people that you're like, you know what, I don't think this is who I'm looking for, but those records I kind of put off to the side, or I'll make a little note like, okay, could this be a sibling? Could this be a cousin? Could this, so you want to hang on to those random people that you're finding as you go along. Okay, so now I am going to attempt, so I'm going to close this for a second, and I am going to go in and hope. So what you couldn't see is I went to orlandparklibrary.org and went to online resources, genealogy, and then it's ancestry. You need to enter your library card number to get in. So that's what I was doing. So let's take a look around. So as you can see, they have it broken out into different areas, different types of records that you can look for. If you go directly to begin searching, you have the option of exploring by location. This you might want to do just to see what is available in different areas. You can also, so they have USA, you can go to Europe, you can take a look and search Ireland, all these other, which is kind of cool, but, and they will warn you if you're going into like the Germany records or the Poland records, there will be a pop-up saying, hey, these records may be in German. These records, you know, so you got to kind of take a look and see how well you can figure that out. So let's take a look to see what they have in Illinois. At one point, just interesting fun fact about my own genealogy, I was sent several pages of a family Bible that was actually written in Old German. So that was interesting. So at one point, being a librarian, I was tracking down books on how to read German, Old German handwriting. So yeah, that, and eventually my mom found someone who can translate, because I was making myself crazy. So let's take a look, World War II draft cards. And I know just who to look for. So I'm going to put in one of my last names, which is actually not super common. So it is a good name to search. You can also fill in, you don't want to fill in a whole lot of information. If you get super specific, you may get no hits at all. So you may want to broaden it out a little bit. And you can see as I'm typing, starting to type in Cook County, we can come down, we can select Cook County, Illinois. For right now, I'm not going to click this, but just to show you. So if we wanted to say, okay, Cook County and anywhere around or the state, you can do that, but I'm going to keep it a little broad for the moment. And we come up and we search. Little sluggish, but it's okay. That's the way our technology has been going this evening. So the nice thing about the World War II draft registration cards, you get the person's full name. You get, there we go, yes. So I can see, you can kind of mouse over and get basic details. So if you just want to go through quickly, like, okay, is this my guy? Is that my guy? You can do that. And we are also in luck because there's an actual image. So this is actually my great grandfather, August Rudolph. And I know that it's him because I know that's his birth date. So we are going to click on that record. So, and then you can kind of move the image out a little bit. We have his home address. Sometimes just for kicks, when I have the home address, I'll go into Google Maps and look up that address to see if the house is still standing. But with the Chicago houses, a lot of times it's a parking lot or it's a high rise, but this house is actually still standing. So that was kind of cool. We see his address, his age, his birth date. He is listing his wife as the person who will always know your address. We see that he worked for Western Electric, which if anyone knows their Chicago disaster history, the members of Western Electric were the ones who were part of the Eastland disaster, which was a boat, I'm not sure exactly what, that was actually sitting at port for the employees of Western Electric. They were going out on a picnic and the boat actually capsized. So that's, if anybody wants to look into the Eastland disaster. fun fact on the side. Okay, and this is actually a two-part document. So if everyone can tilt their heads towards the left, and I have no control about this. So we can see that my great-grandfather was 5'7", 168, and he had no other distinguishing physical characteristics. Sometimes there you'll see, this person was blind, this person was blah, blah, blah. Another thing that we can do, I'm going to click on the save. Let's see if it's going to let me do it. Maybe not. There is a way in Ancestry Library Edition where you can email documents back to yourself, which is just really, really awesome. I am going to go back to all categories so that we can look at some other documents. Okay, so if we come here, so that was a World War II draft card. And if we take a look at a World War I, you'll see there's far less information on there. So this one is a little bit tougher to read. Let's see. So this is actually another copper. So we have his address, we have the date of birth. We see that he was a natural born citizen. Looks like he was a brewer at a brewery. And again, we have a physical description. But what we do not have is who is someone who will always know where you are. I guess that was more of a problem in the 1940s than 1917. All right, let's take a look. We can go back up to search. I'm going to go back to all categories because I want to show you. Yeah, so this, you can just really get lost on this website, just looking at all the different things. Let's jump over to Europe for a moment and go to Ireland. Yeah, so we have 143 different collections, which is kind of cool. And actually the 1901 and 1911 Ireland Census is available for free online. So that's something else that you can go and look at from there. All right, and I'm going to close out of this. And hopefully I'm not keeping anybody up too late. I know it's almost 8, and originally we were going to end at 8. So I don't want to spend too much time and then miss out on getting over to other things. And this is kind of slowing down a little bit on me. I am going to go. I'm going to close out of this. I'm going to switch gears and we are going to go over to FamilySearch.org because I'm trying to be mindful of the time. FamilySearch.org. Okay. So I have an account with FamilySearch.org. It is free to sign up. It's really kind of neat. They always have new things coming up. And since I am a member, I also have my family, not a whole lot. I've put just a couple of generations on here. These are actually pictures that were added by my cousin. So that's kind of cool. But we are going to go in and we are going to search. So basically FamilySearch.org has a lot of the same records that they have on Ancestry. One of the nice things is that this is free. And like I said, it's run by the Church of the Latter-day Saints. And I also do indexing for them. I haven't done it for a long time. So I put in my common last name. There are 26,000 results. So that's way too many for me to go through. So we're going to click on collections. It breaks down vital records, birth, marriage, death. We have census and lists. Again, this is just kind of super fun to jump around in and look at. England and Wales, they have a lot more international documents, which is kind of cool. New York passenger arrival list, Ellis Island. And we can actually view the image. So let's take a look at that. The nice thing here, as you can see, that image, and unless you've been doing genealogy as long as I have, this is kind of intimidating. When I first started doing genealogy, after a while, I could look at this and be like, oh, I know exactly what that says. You do have to kind of get used to it. But the nice thing is, as you can see on the bottom, they have everyone listed. You can read it. You can make out all the dates. So that is actually kind of cool. One of the things you really need to watch for, if you're looking at passenger lists, don't just look like, okay, gosh, here's my family here. Take a look down the line, see if there's any other names that sound familiar to you. You can also look, they list, let's see, you want to read the top of the columns. Yeah, this is the list of the last people that they lived with. So this tells you who is still back at home. So we know that George's mother is still back in Germany. You may also scroll through and they'll give locations of where they're going to, which is also helpful. One thing that I find when I'm doing genealogy is that it's really, really easy, especially because I open up multiple browsers at the same time. It's real easy to kind of get lost in the shuffle. So when that happens, I just go back up to search and I start all over. This, like I said a little bit earlier, this is a very frustrating hobby. But again, when you find a record that you didn't have before, or you go back another generation, I mean, maybe I'm just a big nerd, but it is super exciting when you finally find that person. And anyone who is still with us at this moment, if you want to reach out to me at any time and see what I can help you find, I am more than happy to do that. My family will attest to the fact that I absolutely love doing genealogy. I'll let them know, you know, probably going to spend my whole day doing this. So the pandemic was like, woohoo, genealogy time. Even though I was still working from home. So I have put somebody else in to see what else we can show you. I had certain searches all set. Let's take a look at my absolutely favorite census. The 1900 census is hands down my favorite census. Every year it changes as far as what information they include. In the 1900 census, which we're going to see in a moment. Oh boy, that is tiny, tiny, tiny. So let's zoom in. So we're going to go up to the top of the columns because you always want to know, what does all of this mean? So you want to come up to the top of the columns. And as you can see, if you turn your head to the left again, typically they wrote the names of the streets, and of course this record doesn't, but they would have the name of the street written along the side, and then you would also have the house numbers. So my favorite thing about the 1900 census is that they recorded, you have the head of the household, you have the wife, all the different relationships. They also recorded the month and the year of birth, which is huge, huge, huge. If you're still kind of hunting around for this information, it gives you the age, it tells you whether or not they're married, it tells you how many years they've been married. If it's a second marriage, whatever number marriage it is, you'll see M2. So you may see M2 for the head of the household and M1 for the wife, which is great information because then you kind of know, okay, wait a minute, this guy was married before. So if there's kids in there that, you know, stepson, stepdaughter, you've got more clues because it's all about the clues. These numbers here refer to the number of children that this family has had and the number of children living. So here we have 6 kids living. They're doing great. Down here, we've got 7 kids, only 4 of them are still living, which was not uncommon in 1900. This census also tells you the birthplace of the individual, the birthplace of the father, the mother, which again is excellent information. If we scroll over, we can see their occupations. And it looks like this is farm country, which would explain why there was not a street address. Yeah, we're in North Carolina at the moment. These refer to whether or not the individuals could speak, not speak. Actually, yes, speak, read, and write English. A lot of times you would see that they didn't, and it would have the other language. It tells you whether they owned their own home, whether they had a mortgage. So just a ton of information. And again, you also want to pay attention to other families on that page. You may have a sister who's now married. You always want to take a look. A lot of times the last one listed might be the father-in-law, the mother-in-law, you know, which could be new information that you didn't have before. So let's see. Oh. Yeah, okay, family search, family tree. Okay, so this is just kind of an overview, and this should bring me into, yep, there I am, Teresa Hildebrand. And I'm gonna kind of move this down. So here we have all the various generations, and hopefully my husband and my sister-in-law don't mind me putting this up here. Kind of too late to ask permission, but it's really kind of cool because you can go in, you can add in these different family members. A lot of this information is not information that I personally entered. What FamilySearch will do is if you have an existing tree and they see someone that fits into your tree, they'll kind of build it out for you. This can be good. This can also be bad. In some instances, I've gone in and I've looked and gone, no, that's the wrong family. That's not. So, and then you have to kind of go back and say, okay, that's not my person. But it is kind of neat. And actually, I forgot to show you guys. I just jumped back over to Ancestry because I want to go in and show you what the tree looks like in Ancestry. So I'm going to put in my favorite person to search for and see if I can get into my family tree. So I'm going to go to categories. There's just so much to cover with genealogy. When I first, volunteered and said, hey, what if I did this program? My biggest problem was that I could talk about genealogy for a good 8 hours. So this is showing me the family tree. So that family tree is actually one that I am a contributor. So that's one of my cousins. Stone family tree is another one of my cousins. Ashworth, and I'm scrolling, and here we have the Hildebrand family tree. So we're going to click on there. And what do you know? It's my grandma. So I'm going to come up here and go to view tree. And you can see everybody that's in there. So you can click on this arrow and it pulls you back another generation. The Hildebrand family was kind of easy to start researching because they actually lived in the same county of Illinois for generations and generations. So that's really been kind of cool to search. And it was also a really nice bonding moment with my father-in-law when we sat down and we went through all the genealogy records. So that was kind of cool. So this is my great grandfather, and I'm just going to kind of show you what this looks like. If anyone is thinking of doing an Ancestry subscription and putting the tree in, it's kind of nice because as I search and I find different documents or different facts, I can go back and I can attach them to my person. So we will click on gallery. So as you're attaching these different things, they're going to show up there. So I have census records, I have draft registration, I have a picture that one of my cousins gave to me. I've gotten more pictures from cousins who have come in and said, oh, do you have this? Do you have that? And it's just so amazing. One thing that Ancestry does is they put all of the facts into a life story, which I don't look at these too much, but I guess it's kind of nice. And as you can see, they had this many children. Somehow this isn't right. My great-grandfather was not born in the Netherlands, or did not buried in the Netherlands. So I'm going to have to look at that. So again, there's things that just come along that don't make a whole lot of sense. So I'm going to, now I'm back in FamilySearch. I'm sorry if I'm making anyone dizzy. I'm going to go back to the library's website because I want to be able to get into newspaper source, which is another so exciting. Let's see, it's 10 after 8, and I think we got started about 20 minutes late. So I'm going to show you this, and then I'll see if there's any questions, or Duke can let me know if there's any questions. 481. Nobody memorized my library card number. And so going into this from the library's website, and they do ask for your email address. There's no charge. They're not going to sell your information. One thing that I found in messing around with this is that if you put in the name that you're searching for here, you really don't get a whole lot of great hits. So I have been putting in keyword, just the whole name as a keyword search, and that has worked a lot better. This actually covers only Illinois, because that's what the subscription is. Okay, so you can go in, and even though we know that it's only US, we're going to click update, because once we select Illinois and tell it to update, here's where this comes in super handy. We can select a city, especially if you're looking further back. You're not going to find a whole lot in other parts. So if you know specifically where your ancestors were at, it's just great to be able to go in and do that. As you can imagine, having the first name of August, sometimes I will get results that are bad results. And I wanted to kind of show you this. This is part of that frustrating part I was talking about. Oh, there you go. That's just perfect. Our box says, oops, it looks like the highlighter didn't find your search. When that happens, usually, and unless I can easily take a look at, check and see if there's obituaries on that page, I just really don't even bother with it. Leave that up for a second. So yeah, so this, you got to kind of play around with it a little bit, but you can find decent information. I was finding things like uncles who had crashed their cars, just all kinds of crazy stuff. You can also set your dates here. So if you're looking for a certain ancestor, you can put in their birth date, and you can put in their death year, so that you're only searching that parameter. Let's see. And you know what, Duke? I think we're going to wrap it up. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, we can give the attendees some time to come up with some questions here if they have any. Feel free to put them in the Q&A or the chat box. I'll be checking both.
Okay, and I'm going to see if I can pull up, and I may have to redo my screen share.
No, I can see the PowerPoint.
Oh, you can see it? Okay.
Mhm.
Because this, how do I full size it? I am going to take classes for PowerPoint. All right, so this is my motto, and I've said this for years. If you're not having fun, then you're doing it wrong. So that's my big finish with genealogy. If you get frustrated, walk away from it, come back. I find that works really great for me. And it looks like we have no open questions.
Well, we can give it a minute or two here.
Okay.
But feel free, if anyone has any questions, Q&A or chat, whichever one.
I'm just taking can you see that I'm looking to see who's in here? Yeah, I really appreciate everybody who showed up, and I'm pretty sure that this is going to be available. Will it be available right away, Duke, or?
Yeah, so it will, we're gonna send it off to our graphics and they'll post it. I'm thinking by the end of the week or the beginning of next week. So we will wait and it'll be on YouTube as well as Facebook.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm
Yeah.
seeing now that we had a question about that.
Yes, it
But
will be on
yes.
YouTube and Facebook.
Okay. And I can never watch it because I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, it's not what I meant to say.
No, it was great. All right. Well, if there aren't any questions, Q&A. Wait a minute. Do you see that question in the Q&A, Teresa?
Yeah, missed the very first part, wondering. Oh, I would be, let's see, I can type the answer. I would be available to assist. I am actually in patron services. If you wanted to call, you can call and ask for me, Teresa Hildebrand, or just ask at the desk, and we may be able to schedule time, where I can kind of see what your needs are, and we can go from there, because like I said, this is so much fun for me. So yes, I'd be more than happy to help.
All right. Well, in that case, the Orland Park Library, myself, would like to thank Teresa for doing this presentation, and thank you everyone for attending.
Thank you, Duke.